Hello, and welcome to another episode of Omen Revelations podcast. Man, we haven't done this in so long. Man, it has been a minute, but we got some updates going on. Some things happening at Omen Comics or Omen Publications and Revelation Publications, and we're going to talk about some stuff happening specifically with Revelation Publications. And with me as always is my friend and co-host Steve Sellers.
Hey.
My name is Michael Nunneley too, by the way. I don't think I said that. Sorry, been a little while.
You're the author of Scorn.
Yes, I am. Yes. And Steve,
and I'm the editor of Scorn as well.
Yeah. Steve here was the editor. I'd like to actually. I got some stuff I want to talk about with Scorn, yes, but I'd actually like to dive into because I'm really curious about this. You have got something going on over there in the Steve corner, development in the Blitzverse, something called the Night Wardens.
Yes. Go on.
I'm sorry. You actually have your own superhero universe that you're building called the Blitzverse. And that all actually started with the Speedster Blitz. But what can you, and that's actually the universe that this Night Wardens is set in. But what can you tell us about this universe and its creation?
Well, it started as kind of like a home for characters I created, and I just wanted to continue, mainly for Blitz and Night Spider at first. Night Spider is for those who don't know, is the supporting character for Blitz, and he is a gentleman thief who is reformed and kind of is her guide, and in as much as he knows how to do or can do. But I basically had started off with these characters that I had made for a tabletop game. So I had to build a superhero city around it, and that became the setting of Centennial City. So what I did with that is I took elements from the area around Eastern Virginia, where I currently live. I was born in here. I combined it with influences from superhero cities, mainly like Astro City, Marvel's New York, like some of the Alan Moore type of superhero cities from America's Best Comics line, that kind of stuff. And then it just kind of evolved into its own setting. After a while, I drew back the curtain and I decided to look at what the wider world of that looked like. So while Blitz is very much bound to Centennial City, I needed series that could go elsewhere, do different things, and kind of show like how things are really different. So one of the things that I came up with was a group called the Crown Guard, which I'm really not going to kind of get into because I don't think that they're going to be that important except like as a background element. But just consider them essentially the Blitzverse answer to the Avengers, and they are not American. So this is a team from Eastern Europe who is doing the jobs that the Avengers aren't doing because there are no Avengers in this world.
Interesting. You said Crown Guard. My immediate thought was to go to the UK there, but you're saying Eastern Europe.
Yeah,
that's Europe. Interesting. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then on top of that, you have the Night Wardens, which the idea is that it explores the cult world, the secret history of the Blitzverse, the things that are like not in the nightly news, those kinds of things. Heroes that span centuries of time, including Grace Meridian, who's my main character in that series.
All right. That's interesting. What? I gotta ask this because I know that you've done this before. When you play like a TTRPG, do you actually make your characters with the intent of I'm actually going to use this character in a story later?
Not consciously, although a lot of my tabletop characters do end up in my prose stories if they're interesting. It's more like I used it as sort of grist for a mill. Like, okay, these are characters I'm not using. I'm going to put them in a drawer, and then when the right time comes, I just pull them out. Blitz and Night Spider started off that way, but it wasn't necessarily a planned idea to build a world around them. It was more that the game was over. I had these characters that I had a lot to say about. My head was really into them. And then I just chose to build a world around them because they were stuck in my head and I had to get them out.
Oh, I know what that feels like.
Now, later on, I have sometimes played characters in tabletop and thought about whether they were characters I wanted to use elsewhere. Some of the D&D characters I played are like that. My Tiefling Bard, Devlin, for those who have followed Fellowship of the D20, is one of those characters. But none of them are Blitzverse characters. Now, I want to talk about the most recent example because you know him really well. The most recent example was Harry Malcolm, who has kind of since become a major figure in Night Wardens. He's actually like the second in command of the team.
Nice.
I created him for Call of Cthulhu, and you know that campaign. The name was one actually that I'd had in my head for a long time, but I hadn't used. So again, I just pulled something out and made it work. And he was really, really fun to play, especially with the idea that he thinks he's fighting a supernatural war that only he is equipped to deal with. So what he ends up doing is, he finds a hotel full of evil Cthulhu cultists and he burns it down.
What he is most famous for now, by the way.
He is most famous for it. Yeah. So it's like I just kind of realized I needed an occult detective, and then I kind of realized, oh well, you know what? I already have an occult detective. I have Harry. Why not bring him in? That's just kind of how it worked. So yeah, and then I just kind of made adjustments from there. I made him a vampire because I needed to have a reason why he was active in the present day. I did not want to modernize him. I wanted to keep that 1920s affectation about him. Nice. So it wasn't that I planned him to be a Blitzverse character. It wasn't like one of those things in my mind. It's just more that I had the role I needed. I happen to have the character there. Why not use him?
I have to ask, as I played that Call of Cthulhu game with you.
Sure.
Is he still friends with Dr. Jason Myers?
Yes. I have him kind of in the background as a historical note. Nice. I don't think he would have survived into the present day. I just don't see a reason why he would. But let's just say that he's one of those people that Harry has fond memories of. He probably has a picture of him somewhere in his office. Things like those kinds of things that I can see being Easter eggs that I'll throw in maybe at some point.
Nice. Oh, speaking of Easter eggs, should we talk about our little Easter egg plan?
Sure, why not?
All right. We actually have a thing. I have a superhero universe called the Omenverse. Steve has one, the Blitzverse, and we actually have a plan to make reference to each other's universes. Like, for instance, Blitz, Steve's main character, the titular character of the Blitzverse, is actually like a favorite cartoon of one of the characters in my story. Little things like that. We just wanted to do that kind of nod.
Yeah, I'll probably throw in a Dragon Girl on occasion in Blitz somewhere. I'm still kind of thinking about where to do that with Night Wardens outside of Jason Myers, but
right.
Eventually something will come up.
All right. Let's see. You are currently writing Night Wardens, like you said, and this is going to be the first title in the Blitzverse books. I'd like to know what you can tell us about the creation of this team, their place in the Blitzverse, and why you chose to start with it rather than the titular Blitzverse Speedster. And bonus question, how much was this team inspired by the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Oh, now we're getting into the fun stuff. Yeah, so Night Wardens is a team of immortals, reformed monsters, scholars, and mystics, and they're dedicated to investigating and stopping supernatural threats. So basically, they dig up the Blitzverse's secret occult history. They find lost cities, ancient relics, and things like this. And along the way, they protect the worlds from monsters and other threats that the mortal world isn't equipped to deal with. They're led by Grace Meridian, who is an immortal archaeologist and monster hunter who's been active for over 300 years, since like before the Revolutionary War. That's how old she is. And if you want to know a little bit about her, if you look at our Circle of the Seven Dice videos, and you look at our Marvel campaign, she did feature there, so you get at least a decent idea of who
That's
she was.
right. I forgot about that. See, another tabletop role-playing game character made it into the story there.
Yeah, and well, she was kind of like the other way around. I had created
I guess it worked in reverse that way in that particular
it's
case.
like Pylon. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, except she doesn't roll like Pylon, but that's another.
That was a low blow, but I accept that.
Well, the low rolls were yours.
Yep.
But yeah, the story was originally going to be about Grace Meridian, and that was always like the plan for like a while. I had thought about doing a solo spin-off of Blitz with her, and I knew that basically a 300-year-old archaeologist could see things and go to places that Blitz just can't. She was my window into the cult side of the Blitzverse by design. So over time, I had fleshed out Grace's backstory, what she had done over the centuries, and the idea I couldn't get away from was this team of Victorian-era characters she had been involved with. This is kind of where the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen question comes up. And then that had led into the idea eventually of me teaming up Grace with the Count of Monte Cristo, who is actually the team's financier and is a background character. You don't see a whole lot of him.
As far as financiers goes, that's a good one. Damn.
Yeah. He has more money than God. Yeah. Like he has a treacherous spot up. You know, he's got plenty of money. And after that, the question after thinking about all these things, the question finally became, why not just have Grace lead a team the whole time? So basically, the Night Wardens evolved naturally out of that, and they had been around basically since the 1840s. Is the way that I have it.
I gotta ask, in my head, with how you're saying that, I'm almost imagining a lot of the stuff coming the team's way is probably going to be through Grace, as she has all this archaeological knowledge and all that kind of thing. Am I picking up on what you're putting down?
Yes. I think that basically most of my characters have like somebody that they have as a personal opponent, but Grace has most of them because she's a main character. So that's just kind of how it works. But let me get back to your LOEG question.
Okay.
The way that I put it is that in practice, Night Wardens is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen by way of Planetary and Justice League Dark. It's got all of those elements. So it's like, you have this group of characters that are kind of a mix of public domain and a mix of original characters. You also have like these characters that are doing like secret history, exploring the unknown, which is the planetary angle. And then the saving the world from monsters and Lovecraftian gods and things like that, which is the Justice League Dark part of it. So it's a mashup of all those. There's a mixture of original characters. Grace Meridian, Harry are the main ones there. Characters that are straight out of the public domain. Frankenstein's monster, who I call Adam. The vampire Carmela Karnstein. And then we even have one historical character. I call her Augusta Byron because that was her birth name, but most people would know her better as Ada Lovelace. She was actually the daughter of Lord Byron, and she created the analytical engine, one of the earliest computers.
Okay.
So she's a bit of like the steampunk engineer who kind of hangs around with them, and she's known like Frankenstein since forever.
And are you doing a whole steampunk thing with the team?
They definitely have a steampunk era. Yeah, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah. There's also Doc Terror, who is a former kid sidekick from World War II, sidekick of the Black Terror, and he basically grew up to be a mad scientist. So he handles all the mad science stuff.
Like that was his
Um,
plan when he was a little kid. You see that mad scientist in that movie? That's gonna be me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Why not?
Nice.
Why not? Yeah, and then we have Hester Vale, who is another original character. Basically, she is a dream mage. She uses magic to manipulate dream stuff for various purposes. And she's the granddaughter of Randolph Carter from Lovecraft's Dream Cycle. So altogether, they form this really weird found family of outcasts and outsiders who just do this important work in the shadows.
I'm very curious about this dream mage thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm familiar with dream being able to control dreams, but
Mm-hmm.
a dream mage, what does that entail? I'm very curious about that.
Well, basically, I'm drawing a little bit off of Lovecraft for some of this. She
Okay.
bears the silver key, which Randolph Carter had in the stories. She can go into a realm called the Dreamlands. That gives her abilities to travel. She can actually project,
Okay.
dream walk. The kind of stuff that Doctor Strange can do. As far as that kind of stuff, she can do
Oh,
those sorts of things. She can read dreams or read impressions from auras based off of things that they've been dreaming. Sort of residual dream things. She can read those things. It's not. It's
okay.
not. She's not. Yeah, she's not like Doctor Strange level, but it gives her some abilities that are interesting.
That's intriguing. It makes me curious how that ability is going to play out in the
Mm-hmm.
stories. That could be used in
Mm-hmm.
some really inventive ways.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I will say, like, definitely Cthulhu mythos stuff, or rather Lovecraft mythos stuff, will find its way into the series.
Nice, nice. I gotta ask you about that though.
Mm-hmm.
When I did the dread, I had originally planned all this Cthulhu stuff I was going to do in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it ended up, I mean, digging through what was public domain and what wasn't was like this enormous nightmare. And I guess I'm wondering how is treading through that nightmare been for you with this?
I know what you're saying. I usually try very, very carefully to kind of look through copyright claims and things like that. But as a general rule, if you stick to like before 1929, you're okay. I'm not
Right?
planning on using any of the later stuff really, so I'm not really worried about it. Well, or actually 1930 now. Yeah, it's like 1930 now.
Ah, all right. Yeah, that I after that
Randall
experience.
Carter appeared like in 1922, 23. So I mean, referencing him is no big deal.
All right. Yeah, I decided after doing that with the dread, I didn't ever want to do that again. So
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. But I kind of enjoy that stuff, so I don't really mind.
nice, nice. All right, let's see here. How has the process of transitioning the Blitzverse over to prose been? Have there and also has there been any big or little changes to the stories or characters because of that medium switch?
Not really a huge challenge, if I'm honest. Blitz was a prose project for a long time before it was ever a comic. And because of that, I was able to just transition it back to prose the same way. It was that, and that applies to Night Wardens as well, because Grace really came in before Blitz became a comic. So I kind
Mhm.
of, and honestly, I really hadn't done anything as a comic with her. So it was just easy just to say, okay, how do I just structure this for prose, and that's it. Night Wardens as a team came a little later, but all of that was just world building I was doing kind of in the background for a while. And then once I knew for sure I was back to doing prose again, it was a pretty easy adjustment. Now, I will say a few details did change here and there, but those are mainly the result of world building and fine tuning what I was already working with. So, actually, Grace is a little older than what I had intended her when I did the Marvel game, because I kind of realized it made more sense that she grew up during the Enlightenment, and that allowed for fun things to happen. Like she was on the Lewis and Clark expedition. I couldn't have done that before. Um,
Right?
Things like that. Harry's personality also evolved a little bit once I decided to put him on the team. So while he still has that edge, he's the guy who will burn down the hotel of evil cultists. He's also like, he will not drink blood. Even though he's a vampire, he will not drink human blood. Like he'll drink animal blood, he'll drink alchemical substitutes, things that kind of hold his hunger at bay, but he will not actually drink from people. And that's the kind of stuff that I really find entertaining, those kinds of contradictions. But all that was really more like the questioning of the characters in the world, and not really so much the shift in the medium.
One thing I just realized I don't think you answered
Mm-hmm.
was why you decided to start with Night Wardens instead of Blitz.
Yes. Yeah, and I can answer that. There were a couple of reasons behind it. One of them is just that this group called to me really strongly. And when that happens, that usually means I'm onto something. And it usually means, ride the wave while you've got it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. The other is that Night Wardens offers a long-term historical framework on this universe that Blitz by itself just can't provide. Blitz is the world outside your window. It's just going to be like how Amy Mason sees it, how an average kid in the city sees it. And it's rooted, strictly in the present and in that city and in that moment. With Night Wardens, you're really going to see more of the actual Blitzverse itself, the wider view of the world that it belongs to, the history of that world, things where things are different. So secrets that Amy doesn't necessarily know, and in some cases can't know because it is outside of her understanding. Like, yes, somebody who deals with superhero stuff every day is not going to understand, things like mythos incursions. It's not going to understand like a creature I created called Melungal, which is basically an incarnation of clinical depression. Those kinds of sort of things that are beyond the ken of like most normal people. But I can show the reader this in Night Wardens because, this is part of that tapestry. And I do have a different viewpoint character for that. That's Hester. So, she's basically the character that, as of the start of the first book, like just joined the team. And so, her journey, into this world is basically designed to mirror what the reader is going through. So, it's not going to be like you're going to get lost, like following that first.
All right. All right. That makes sense, but I do have a follow-up question with that.
Sure. Yeah.
Typically, when you're doing a big universe build like that, you will get the opening story for a universe, and then in the sequels, that's when you get the world building stuff that comes in behind it.
Sure.
You have chosen to do what looks like the second book first because you're doing all the world building and establishing in that one.
Yeah.
And then you're going to do the story. How did you consider that in your mind? How did you tackle that?
Well, they're completely separate stories, and they don't really touch. It's more different aspects of looking at the same world. It's
okay.
The perspectives are just different.
Okay. All right. Does Blitz come up at all in Night Wardens?
I will say that Blitz knows Harry. She doesn't see what he does when he's with the Night Wardens. He doesn't tell her.
Okay.
There are things that he would rather she not know.
Okay.
And it's just because he wants to protect her, that kind of thing.
Okay. That totally works. Now this last one, I'm kind of curious about this with most writers I talk to.
Yeah.
Are you a pantser or a plotter?
I would consider myself a plantser. I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I'll usually have an outline when I start because I need a direction and a framework. My problem though is that plans will often change for me while I'm in the middle of a scene or a chapter, and it's just about my creative instincts work. They'll just take me into a different direction once I'm in the zone. I know some people talk about how characters will tell them what they want to do. It's kind of like that. the reason I'm kind of hedging on that is because there's a deeper understanding I have of it, and that's just what it feels like on the surface. It's just that I tend to listen when characters surprise me because they often end up making the process better. It's not the characters so much as it's my creative instinct rebelling against something that feels wrong when I'm in the moment and writing it. If that makes sense.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's just like, I plan for things, and then if plans change after that, in the middle of that, I'll adjust the plan to try to make it come back together so that, it gets where I need it to. So as long as I know where it's ultimately going, I can change the middle a little bit and it's fine.
No, go ahead.
No, yeah. So
that makes my follow-up question rather interesting. Do you have a plan? I mean, you said you have like an outline established as a guide, basically. But do you like have a number of books or whatever for the series?
I have a couple. Like with Night Wardens, I'm up to book 2 or 3.
Oh wow!
So,
okay.
Yeah, so I'm right now I'm writing the first one, which is called The Drowned Crypt. That one deals with an ancient lich that is sealed in the ruins of Atlantis. So we got a lot of crazy stuff going on with that. Book 2, I know what that is. It's basically this big Egyptian adventure. And I bring in H. Rider Haggard's Asha of Kor from the novel She, History of Adventure.
Okay.
And they're facing off against the cult of Akhenaten, So
really,
yeah. I will say I really love Asha. She is kind of like the Magneto of the series in terms of like her role, and I just love having her around.
I know quite a bit about Akhenaten, and I'm curious how you're gonna play that one. That he was basically the rebellious emperor.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
He's like, you know what? I don't care about all these thousands of years of tradition. We're gonna serve just this one guy. And we're even going to move the capital city.
Yes. And imagine that you are an Egyptian princess in that power structure. You find that the pharaoh decided to upend everything, including your position, including your entire religion, and basically said, nope, you are out of here. I would imagine that would make someone really, really pissed off.
Say yeah.
And that's Asha 4.
Well, you notice Akhenaten's religion lasted as long as his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, that was it.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of that is like, and also I'm kind of dealing with like sometimes I base a little bit on like actual archaeology. So the way that we're talking about digging up a second Sphinx kind of inspired some thoughts in that direction that I've been developing.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I do with that. And then like after that, I have like a ton of villains, and it's just a matter of like which one do I want to deal with in this book. And and I have I definitely for book 3 it's probably going to end up being like Nazi werewolves.
Well, what about the Blitz books? Do you have how are the do you have kind of plan for those yet?
I haven't worked out the exact outline for book 1, but I know the general trajectory. So the first one is going to be Vanishing Tower. I'm going to try to redo that a little bit, but it's still going to be basically along the lines of what was in the comic. That I'm not going to change a lot from that. And then after that, there's a particular one that I'm dealing with Roland and the Thieves Guild and like some of his backstory. I have a group in his backstory called Roland 7, that's just what I affectionately call them. Because I had basically decided that Night Spider had basically had his own heist crew back in the day. And this is kind of like people in his backstory that when he reformed, that really kind of threw a wrench in that whole dynamic. And we start to see essentially what happened to the 7. And basically the enemies that they had made trying to get back at them.
Okay, yeah. That certainly sounds intriguing. That's so. I final question here. Are we looking at novels, novellas? What are we looking at here?
I would say novel length in general, unless somehow it ends up being shorter than I expect it to.
All right, awesome.
Cool. All right. So, do we want to talk about Scorn now?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Cool. All right. So we had talked about Scorn before a long time ago, back when it was a comic, which I know at the time you called Seder. So let's get into where Scorn is now that it's a novella. Can you describe what Scorn is for those who don't remember, and then maybe talk about like what the thought process was for how you came up with it?
Sure. I can do that. The story focuses a lot on the type of magic that Volvas use called Seder. That is why the story was originally called that. I changed it to Scorn for prose, simply for marketing purposes. The likelihood of the Norse word Seder coming up in a search was extremely low. So I chose the English word Scorn instead. So that was definitely a change in there. As to what...
Yeah. I was just gonna say, well, at least nobody can mistake your book for any other one if it's called Seder.
Right? That much is true, but I mean, you put a title like that on your book, and basically, no matter what, your first thing is you have to explain what the hell the title means. Yeah. You know what I mean? And not only do they not know, yeah.
I think you were right, and the reason I think you were right to change it is because I feel like Scorn really more hits the emotional core of the book.
Totally. I'm gonna have to agree with that. And on that subject, as to what Scorn is a very violent Norse grimdark fantasy. Ultimately, Scorn is a Shakespearean tragedy in that the main character Ingvar is a king with a fatal flaw that leads to his downfall. It is also a tale of brutal vengeance born of a broken heart. But all of that is set in a fantasy world very similar to 8th century Scandinavia. The gods and goddesses of Norse mythology are alive and breathing in Scorn.
Yeah, I would say the thing that most that it most reminds me of is like Gene Wolfe's Latro novels, Soldier in the Mist novels, which dealt with Greek mythology. From the perspective of like a Greek soldier that had lost his memory. So it is very much the same, where it's like the world that we know, or the historical world that we know. It's just that it has these gods in it and they do god things.
Right. It does have some fantasy elements to it. I didn't want to make it exact because I didn't want this to be a historical book. I wanted it to be square in the realm of fantasy, but with things that look familiar that didn't require a whole lot of world building to explain.
Yeah. I mean, and kind of looking at it, I kind of realized you really didn't need to know very much history at all, like at all.
No. And if I had done it particularly built around the history I established on it, I think it would have pulled people out of it.
Yeah. I mean, there are places where it can fit if you really think about it, but yeah, but we'll get into that.
Just a little bit. You had asked a little bit about my inspiration for the process, the creative process.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. The creative process started by the inspiration of playing D&D, watching the 13th Warrior, The Walking Dead, and the series Vikings. These gave me the idea for an adventure party that was being stalked by a supernatural enemy. Over the next few years, as I developed what it was that would be stalking them and why, the story evolved into what it is today. I decided to take the old proverb, hell hath no fury like a woman scorn, and turn it up to 11 by making the woman a sorceress.
Yeah. So how does the process for writing Scorn feel different in prose than it did when you wrote it as a comic? And are you happier with it now in its current form, or do you wish that you'd been able to see it as a finished comic like you intended originally?
While I love reading comics, and I always will, as a medium for storytelling, I find them very medium. I find them very, very limiting. Everything from having maximum word count per balloon and per page to telling half the story through a series of single images. It was always a struggle for me to get what I wanted into an issue. That is to say nothing about the thousands of dollars that go into making a single issue. But with prose, I have no such limitations. As a writer, it was like I was on a leash for years writing comics, never able to run free or explore. And that leash is off now with worlds to explore. So, yes, I am very happy with Scorn and prose. And I think it's very much a better story than it would have been in comics.
That's fair, and I will say I understand exactly where you're coming from, because when I started like writing comics for you, it was like I felt like I was essentially like writing with one hand tied behind my back.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
It's a challenge, and when you manage to get it to work, it's amazing. But it is. There's so much more that you can do. When you don't have that constraint.
I will say on that note, I think that you mastered that craft much better than I did.
I appreciate that. Okay, well, yeah. So we were talking about how Ingvar is a tragic hero, and how he's in the Shakespearean tradition. Although I would say he's also very much in the Greek tradition in that way too. He allows them to make some costly mistakes, and it leads to some terrible consequences. And while he does the best that he can in a difficult situation, ultimately he gets no real reward for it. Is that typical in Norse myth? And where do you think Ingvar stands among characters like that? And are there any mythic characters that influenced him?
Oh, wow. There's a lot to unpack there. Okay. There are a lot of commonalities to Norse myths and Shakespearean tragedies. You have a flawed but sympathetic protagonist who makes one irrevocable mistake that leads to his downfall. Both work on the idea that great deeds and intentions do not spare the hero from their tragic fate and the consequences of their choices.
Yeah, Macbeth being a good example of that. Yeah.
Right. As far as where Ingvar stands among the heroes of the saga, I'd say he fits right in there with the other heroes of the sagas. Many heroes of the sagas are like that. Well, not quite on the same level, and their exact stories are different. If I was pressed, I might say Sigurd. Granted, he broke his oath of love because he was given a potion that made him forget about his beloved. But the idea of the cascading and terrible downfall for both Ingvar and Sigurd because of their mistake, it runs parallel.
I dig that. That's absolutely fair. And yeah, I could absolutely see them inhabiting the same world. Yeah. So with that, let's look at Fegra. I will say I really find her compelling. She's a really fascinating character.
Oh, thank you.
And she casts a huge shadow on the novella, even if she doesn't show herself directly for a lot of it. But when she appears, she has real impact, and that's when you have a really good antagonist. So was that planned, or is that just how the process worked out?
Oh, I definitely intended all of her appearances, both before and after the scorning, to be impactful. Before she was scorned, I needed to show just how vital she was to Ingvar's success and survival. This was fuel for both the legitimacy of Fegra's grievance and Ingvar's falling in love with her. After she was scorned, her appearances were much less because I wanted it to feel very, very heavy when she showed up.
Like, yeah, oh crap sort of moments. Yeah, and they do hit like that. When you see her after that, it is an oh crap
moment. That I don't want to spoil the ending, but that ending is that's one hell of an ending.
Yeah, I think so. We both worked really hard on it, and I came out, I think, the right way again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, so I guess we'll kind of look at her. Okay, so the emotional core of her, I think, feels genuine. You talked about her feeling scorned and all of that, but it's like, Yeah, but she also kills children. It's like she does these things, and it's like you understand why she's like destroying everybody close to Ingvar, but it's like you're killing younglings.
Well, technically, it was not her that did that. I'm just saying.
Well, okay. We'll just say indirectly then.
Yes. Okay.
Indirectly through the spell she casts. Okay, that's fine. But I guess the question I was kind of getting into is like, some monsters are less people who are monstrous at heart.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are monstrous at heart, and then some are more the kind who cause a lot of collateral damage and they just don't care. And then, or she could be like in a completely different category for you. So if that's the case, just say so. Where do you think that Fegger comes down and why?
Well, I'm gonna let y'all in on some insight that I don't necessarily elaborate on in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I see Fegger as a kind and loving person inside,
Mm-hmm.
but she has been hurt badly when it comes to romantic
Mm-hmm.
love. That wound is deep and never did quite heal. That she was willing to open up at all was huge. When that was then shut down, it was like taking an axe to an already opened and bleeding wound. If she thought she was hurt before, nothing prepared her for how Ingvar's scorn hurt her, because it came with so much already existing pain. When she turned nasty, the extreme nature of her response was an echo of the torment and suffering of her heart. As far as innocent people being killed, I can't say much because of spoilers, but let's just say she wasn't necessarily in control of that.
Okay. That's absolutely fair. And I will say the way I kind of read her, the feeling that I had gotten was that she wasn't always the way that we see her later in the book. Mm-hmm. I had really kind of gotten the feeling that the person that she typically was the person she was in the beginning of the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, that feels right to me. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of curious, like, do you want to talk a little bit about how vulva magic actually works? Pretty much all I know is basically what you showed me in this book. So I hadn't even heard of vulvas or satyr as a practice until you came up with it and I read this. So firstly, this is a genuine Norse tradition, yes?
Yeah.
And did you take any creative liberties with it, or is it like in line with what you know of how it works, or what?
Vulvas and satyr magic were absolutely practiced and definitely part of Scandinavian society in the 8th century. However, this was satyr magic, and being a vulva was something that only a woman would do. In fact, a man doing it was considered shameful.
Yeah.
So
I get that impression, yeah.
Men didn't do this at all. But the one huge exception to this is oddly Odin himself, who not only learned satyr but necromancy and other things.
And Loki, who can shapeshift into a woman.
Shape-shifting is an entirely different thing and isn't actually tied to magic necessarily for them. They believe that your body is just a shell. And so being able to change it into a different form is something that some people have the ability to do and some people don't. But like, for instance, my character Bjorn can shapeshift. This isn't because of some magical thing that he can do. This is because he simply he was born with the ability to change his shape.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, just to be clear, that's Bjorn the Red from Scorn, not Bjorn the Bold from Fellowship for the D20.
Yeah. That totally
you really love your Bjorns, I know.
Yeah. But vulvas in that society were healers. They could speak with the dead, and they were also prophets. They were able to work enchantments, and they served kings and jarls as advisors, especially in times of great trouble. They often lived outside of the cities and were nomadic. I did take some liberties with what they are able to do, but the actual rituals are, for the most part, in line with real world tradition.
Well, yeah, I kind of had the feeling that they might have been, because the details in there, they seem very realistic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that did come across. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
put some time into researching that. I wanted it to feel authentic to the time.
yeah. And speaking of that, let's look. I know you did a lot of research also on Lindisfarne Priory and the Holy Island,
Uh-huh.
which we actually do see towards the end of the book. So, what went into researching these things, and are there any favorite bits of Viking trivia that you want to share?
Any favorite bits of Viking? Well, I guess one thing I would like to share. I want to talk about Lindisfarne Priory, but one thing I would like to share is and this is one thing I wanted to try and show at least to some degree in Scorn, was that there is more to Vikings and Viking culture than raping, pillaging, and murder.
Hmm. Yeah,
That is the perception most people have of Vikings. When they see them, they think of these moralist guys that rape and pillage and murder, and they're basically on some kind of warrior suicide trip on a hope to die in battle to go to Valhalla. There is so much more to their culture than that. Uh,
yeah. It comes from the history being written by the people they rated.
right, right, exactly. That was my next point. This perception was
Hmm.
written by their enemies.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
so I mean,
and when you kind of look at them and the way that these characters are kind of shown in their society, I mean, you can definitely see that they definitely have an honor code. They definitely do have things that they frown upon. They have their own cultural mores, things that they forbid. And we really don't see that because we're too used to seeing like Kirk Douglas, coming off of a longboat and like killing people with axes.
right, that was one of the reasons I put that there is a court scene
Hmm.
in Scorn, and I specifically wanted to show that because there were laws that even a king is not above the law.
Hmm.
It wasn't some lawless moralist society at all.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, and honor really comes up a lot. I would say like they're probably closer to a Klingon type of culture, than rape, pillage, and plunder.
Right. Right. Just, I mean, they were no there. A Viking city was filled with what you would think of as in most cities of the times. They were there.
Mhm.
I mean, they're blacksmiths, woodworkers, shipbuilders, leather workers. I mean, their raiding was something that happened one time a year, and I'm not even sure how often it happened. But
Yeah,
it was something. It was definitely not the sole focus of their culture.
yeah, and it's just that you only hear about like the big raids,
Yeah.
and that's why it tends to be like so prevalent. But yeah, I mean, if that's not what they did most of the time, and that's not even necessarily like every tribe, yeah, I mean, because there were a lot of
Right.
scattered kingdoms.
And actually this leads into the discussion of Lindisfarne Priory.
Hmm.
And I want to say 793 AD. The first Vikings showed up in England, and it was
Hmm.
at Lindisfarne Priory on the Holy
Hmm.
Island. Now, I use this as framework, but I did not use the exact event. Even if I did, it was completely reworked. Um, the uh, what happened at Lindisfarne Priory was they were raided. A whole bunch of people were killed, and they stole all the treasure. What was so shocking about it was no one would even have thought that someone would go into a holy place like that and do these things.
Hmm.
And what was inconceivable to them is that these people didn't believe in their God. There wasn't a holy site to them at all. It was just another building.
Yeah. So why would they think about that? Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, what I decided to do was to use the Vikings going there, um, I basically just took that from that event, and that they went to a place called the Holy Island. I never at any time call it Lindisfarne Priory.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make that the ending of the story there. I wanted to frame that so that the whole thing would happen completely differently. And even with what I have in the story, I think you're in for a shock surprise for how I actually wrap that up.
Yeah, yeah. Having looked at it, I can definitely tell you that's very likely the case.
Yeah. So I mean, I wanted to use Lindisfarne Priory because it was the first time the Christian world encountered the Vikings. So I thought that was a great entry point. But again, I didn't want this compared to actual history. Hence the minor changes and the major changes to what actually happened there.
Yeah. Would you say that's true of the battle scenes as well?
What I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, no. What I'm saying is like, do you want to talk about like how the battle scenes in Scorn worked, and whether or not like, how close you came to the way they actually did things, and
okay,
did you take any licenses here and there? I mean, aside from like the fact that shape shifting bears are in it, but other than
that. Honestly, it was repetition that made it work. There was a lot of working parts to it, and I tried to show that in I wanted it to feel sequential and almost, but like slightly disjointed, where it was like this was the next thing that happened, but it doesn't necessarily connect with what happened before it or what happens after it. I wanted it to feel like, okay, this is a quick view here, quick view here, quick view here. And I wanted to, like, the thing, I particularly wanted to bring up the thing about the Shield Maiden, that the marshal that was actually directing battle in there, because people kind of have a strange perception of shield maidens, but they were actually leaders on the battlefield. It was they were not just warriors. There wasn't a discrimination there against who was in charge. You know what I mean? There was one leader, but yeah, there was also a shield maiden that was out there directing other people too. And so I wanted to, I guess the way I made all that work is by imagining it in my head and then going over the battle I wrote down about 20 times. It was not easy, but I think it was the repetition of going over it and polishing it that formed it in my head and eventually made it work.
There was a lot of refinement that went into that, and I know there were like points where we were looking at this and like, oh yeah, this character, where is this character, and where did this person go? Yeah,
right.
And then having to write him back in, and so there was a lot of that going on. Inside baseball, friends.
Say that again.
Okay. No, I was just saying that's inside baseball for those who care about such things.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about anything you have coming up next? No, do you want to get back to the Omenverse soon?
Yeah. I only have one other potential Revelation publication story, and that is a reworking of the Christmas mythology. But you actually read the first I don't know, chapter or two of that. I think actually I wrote it wrote the beginnings of it a few years back. That's the only other potential Revelation publication story I have coming. But Omenverse, it is a superhero horror universe. It is a very dark place, but it is also a place where the mythologies of the world have been reworked to fit together. I basically started from creation and just kind of picked and chose certain things from certain mythologies and built it all up, and so that there's little bits of all of it everywhere. And when I'm talking about mythologies, I'm including even stuff from the Bible. I'm talking about apocryphal stuff that is not in the Bible, like the books of Enoch or the forgotten books of Eden, or even stuff like the Divine Comedy or Paradise Lost, things like this. I've combined these things into a world that is about to experience one of the greatest apocalypses that you can possibly imagine.
Dead rising from the grave. Seas boiling. Caution, bad guy lives here. I still love that slogan we came up with today.
The story is centered around a character called Omen. This guy, he's a soldier that did some really absolutely horrid things when he was a soldier, particularly to another character that's in the story. But he when he dies, he actually goes to heaven, and but he is not this is not the heaven you imagine. The God of this heaven is not the God you imagine. The Jesus in the story is not the Jesus that you imagine. This guy, Frank Wade, ends up in what could best be described as Heaven's Special Forces Unit. And it is his job to basically fight the coming apocalypse.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I actually did the writing for Jesus during, for the comics that we did. And I will say, if you want to celebrate Easter, reading Guardians of the Lamb it would definitely be a good way to do
that. Yeah. Essentially, I made the death of Christ into a point where the universe we know split away and started an alternate universe. And as space and time are constantly expanding outward, so that change also expanded outward, affecting both things in the past and things in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the sheer amount of world building in this universe is more than I've seen in anything not written by Alan Moore. and I mean that as a compliment. I absolutely mean
it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's going to be an exciting one. First book coming out is going to be Omen. I am several chapters into it now. I am also in the midst of doing some research.
Nice.
Yeah, there's some dark places I got to go and Scorn that I've only really dabbled in as far as my research goes before, and I've picked up some books. I got to tell you, I picked up a book on serial killers. I read just the first chapter, and I must have said "God damn and holy crap" at least 50 times. I was just blown. I was like, "What? You did? No! Oh my God!" So I mean,
and serial killers do come into play in the Omenverse pretty heavily.
Yep. So I mean, I'm doing my best to prep. I want things to feel authentic. Doing lots of research, even into like forensic studies and stuff like that. So I mean, it's going to be a little bit of time before this comes out, but that is what I'm currently working on.
Yeah, I can't wait to finally see this thing in its finished form. It's been years since we started on it, and now I'm looking forward to see like how the final form turns out.
You know what though, and you bring up something that is very, very awesome about switching over to prose. If we'd have kept telling this story in comic books, it'd have taken 50 or 60 years to get it done.
Yeah.
Whereas with prose, I can get this done in a few years.
Yeah. We would both be dead before the comic book version of Omenverse would be done.
Yeah.
Long dead.
Yeah. So, how about you? Was there anything you wanted to add, or do you want to wrap up? Or
I'm good with wrapping up. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about.
Okay. Okay, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. And if you are looking for either of my books, they are both on Amazon. There is Dread, which is a paranormal cyberpunk urban fantasy thriller. Basically, a serial killer kills his third victim, making it a serial case, and the very first person on the suspect list is one of the detectives on the case. And then the next one is Scorn, the one we've been talking about on this episode here. You can check those both out. They're both free to read on Kindle Unlimited, and you can pick them up for as low as $2.99. But thank you very much for hanging out with us, and we will catch you guys next time.
See you.
In the other. In the other.